Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into the global body care cosmetics market.
Mhm.
And this isn't just about, the creams and soaps on your shelf. It's a sector that's really reshaping personal care, wellness, even how we think about beauty worldwide.
It absolutely is.
So, our mission here is to pull out the key takeaways from the research we've looked at to help you really grasp the huge momentum and the shifts happening in this space.
And that momentum is definitely there. The analysis we're using comes straight from cognitive market research.
Right.
And they found the market was already worth, get this, about $3.6 billion back in 2021.
Wow. Okay.
But here's the thing. It's projected to hit over $4.3 billion by 2025. And then
Huh.
it keeps climbing, expected to reach something like $6.2 billion by 2033.
$6.2 billion.
Yeah, which works out to a compound annual growth rate,
Hmm.
CAGR, of almost 4.6%.
Mhm.
That's pretty healthy. Shows sustained global growth.
Okay, nearly 4.6% annually, globally. That's quite strong. Let's unpack this a bit though. Where are we actually seeing this growth most clearly? Right.
Because, like you said, it's global. But I imagine some areas are really driving things forward more than others.
Absolutely. Some regions are definitely powering ahead. Let's kick off with North America. Still a powerhouse, no question.
Hmm.
Its market started just over $1 billion in 2021. That's projected to grow to more than $1.6 billion by 2033. So that's a solid growth rate, nearly 4% a year.
Okay.
Now, within that, the U.S. is, well, the biggest piece of the pie, moving from around $845 million up to over $1.3 billion.
Right. The lion's share.
Exactly. But what's quite interesting is Canada. It actually shows a stronger growth rate. Its CAGR is over 4.7%.
Higher than the U.S.
Yep. Growing from about $105 million to over $183 million forecast by 2033. And Mexico's doing well too, on track for over $134 million, growing at about 4.17%.
Hmm. That Canadian number is interesting. So, okay, what does this picture look like in Europe? Europe's often seen as a trendsetter here. Is it keeping pace?
Europe's definitely still very significant. Its market was worth just over $714 million back in 2021.
And it's expected to hit over $832 million by 2025, then climb up to nearly $1.15 billion by 2033.
Ah,
So it's holding steady with a good CAGR, around 4.1%.
solid growth there too.
Yeah. And interestingly, Germany is kind of leading the pack in Europe in terms of growth rate, almost 4.8% CAGR.
Really? Why Germany?
Well, it's projected to go from around $142 million to over $245 million. It seems to reflect, Germany's strength in sustainable and organic body care, which is a huge global trend.
Oh, makes sense.
Then you've got the UK, also very strong, heading towards $182 million, growing at 4.4%. France is projected around $143 million by 2033. Italy around $120 million.
So still major players.
Definitely. And Spain's actually showing some faster growth, too, similar to the UK at 4.4%, aiming for nearly $92 million.
Hmm.
We also see Sweden pushing towards $73 million. Even Russia, though growing a bit slower, is expected to hit over $52 million.
Okay.
And of course, you have Switzerland, Denmark, Luxembourg, the rest of Europe. They all contribute to that consistent growth story.
Right. So we've got these, let's call them established Western markets showing solid, dependable growth. But you mentioned some areas are really powering ahead.
Mhm.
Now, this is where I think it gets really interesting. Let's talk about the fastest growing region. Where's the real explosion happening?
You nailed it. That would absolutely be Asia Pacific.
Knew it.
Yeah, I mean, this region is expected to jump from about $1.35 billion in 2021 to nearly $2.5 billion by 2033. That's a CAGR of over 5.2%.
Wow.
So China leads in just pure size, forecast to hit almost $700 million by 2033, growing at a really strong 5.4% annually.
Huge market.
Massive. And this is crucial, India is the real standout for growth rate. It has the highest CAGR in the region, over 6% a year.
6%.
6%, which means its market is projected to basically double from $194 million to over $391 million by 2033.
That's incredible momentum.
It really is. And Japan and South Korea.
Yeah.
Still very robust, very innovative markets, projected around $378 million and $280 million respectively by 2033.
So what's driving this boom in Asia Pacific? Is it just population?
Not just that, it's really fueled by this heightened interest in personal wellness, plus the quick uptake of premium specialized skincare.
Right, K-beauty, J-beauty influences.
Exactly. And the huge role of social media in shaping sort of new beauty habits and rituals, plus Rising incomes, of course.
Yeah, over 6% for India really signals a major shift. And you think about all the local traditions and ingredients emerging from there onto the global stage now.
Precisely.
Okay, so moving on. What about other areas showing significant growth? Is the Southern Hemisphere getting in on the action?
It is, yes. South America, for instance, that market was over $257 million in 2021,
Okay.
and it's expected to rise to over $454 million by 2033. That's a strong CAGR, too, about 4.8%.
Good growth. Who's leading there? Brazil.
Brazil takes the biggest slice, yeah? Projected to reach over $176 million.
Oh.
But actually, Argentina shows really strong momentum with its growth rate over 5.3% CAGR. Yeah, set to reach over $91 million. And then you see Colombia, Peru, Chile. They're all pushing growth, all above 4% CAGR. Chile is actually notably strong, too, over 5.1%.
So growing middle class driving demand there.
Seems to be a big factor, yeah. Increased urbanization, more disposable income for personal care.
Right. Now, we often hear about potential in the Middle East and Africa. Are those regions catching this body care wave too? Or are there different things happening there?
Ooh, they're definitely catching the wave.
Yeah.
Take the Middle East. The market there was nearly $174 million in 2021.
Uh-huh.
Expected to hit over $305 million by 2033. That's moving at a pretty strong clip, nearly 4.8% CAGR.
Okay.
Saudi Arabia leads the way there, projected over $76 million by 2033. Turkey's not far behind, over $58 million. And the UAE is close too, almost $57 million.
And the growth rates.
Really robust. All three of those, Saudi, Turkey, UAE, are posting KGRs above 5%.
Wow. Why so strong there?
Seems to be really robust demand, especially in the more urbanized areas and high-income pockets. Plus, Qatar, Egypt, others contribute steadily too.
And Africa.
Africa's market is expected to grow from just under $98 million in 2021 to over $171 million by 2033. That's a CAGR of just over 4%.
Still decent growth.
Yeah. South Africa is the regional leader there, projected value over $73 million. Nigeria is significant too, heading towards $24 million. And the rest of Africa contributes a large chunk as well, around $74 million combined. Nigeria's growth rate is slightly slower, but the potential is obviously there.
So it looks like a growing consumer base across Africa too, getting more access, incomes rising slightly.
Exactly. More people eager for personal care products.
Okay, so we've toured the globe, looked at all these numbers, these regional trends. If we pull it all together, what does this actually mean for you listening, whether you're just curious or maybe you work in the industry?
Well, the big picture is that this global body care cosmetics market is really set up for steady, consistent growth pretty much everywhere. But if you connect the dots, while the mature markets, North America, Europe, they're maintaining solid growth.
Mm-hmm.
It's really Asia Pacific, South America, and certain Middle Eastern countries that looks set to lead the charge.
In terms of growth rate and maybe innovation too.
Exactly. Both adoption and innovation. And I think this points to the underlying drivers. Consumers they're increasingly prioritizing more than just looking good.
It's about self-care now, isn't it?
Precisely.
Mhm.
Self-care, overall skin health, and a real interest in natural, maybe sustainable ingredients.
Yeah, you see that everywhere.
So it means the market isn't just going to grow in dollar value. It's also set to expand in, let's say, sophistication
Mm-hmm.
and in the sheer diversity of what consumers want and expect.
It's really clear, listening to all of this, that these numbers paint a picture of, evolving priorities for consumers all over the world. How personal care is changing across different cultures, different economies.
Absolutely. And, that leads to maybe a final provocative thought for you, the listener,
Right.
to mull over. How might these different growth rates we've talked about, these regional priorities, how might they actually influence what products get developed in the future or how they're marketed? And maybe even how they shift cultural ideas about beauty and self-care in all these different parts of the world.
That's a great question to leave things on. Lots to think about there. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're digging into something fascinating. The body care cosmetics market. Lots of movement there.
Definitely.
You might think, moisturizers, soaps, pretty straightforward. But our mission today is really to unpack what's really going on. We want to reveal the forces driving its growth, the hurdles and the trends shaping its future.
Yeah.
And we've got a stack of specific source material here, basically to give you a shortcut to getting up to speed on this pretty complex industry.
And it's interesting, isn't it, how this market really mirrors these bigger shifts in consumer behavior. It's It's become so much more than just products. It reflects how we're weaving personal wellness right into our daily routines.
Yeah, that's a great point. So let's jump right in then. What's really fueling this boom? Why are people suddenly so, well, invested in body care beyond just, basic cleanliness?
Well, I think the biggest factor, really, is a huge jump in consumer awareness.
Hmm.
People just know so much more about skincare, about hygiene. It's fundamentally changed things. Consumers aren't just buying what's on the shelf, they're informed. They're almost like micro-regulators themselves now.
Huh. Interesting way to put it.
Yeah, they're educated about ingredients, about their specific skin type, about building a whole routine. And a lot of that knowledge comes directly from, you know, social media, dermatologists who are more active online now, beauty influencers.
Sure, makes sense.
And this isn't just boosting demand for the usual stuff like lotions. It's actually expanding interest into more niche things. Body scrubs, therapeutic creams, even just daily use stuff formulated into new ways. And that's happening across different age groups too.
Okay, so people know more. That's clear. I mean, I remember when body care was just soap, whatever was in the shower. Now you see kids with these complex routines. But does knowing more just automatically mean spending more? Or is something else pushing the economic side?
That's the other key piece, disposable income, especially in emerging markets. That
Yeah.
growth is a massive driver. You've got rapid urbanization, a growing middle class, particularly in regions like Asia, Latin America.
Right.
And with that comes this real shift in how people see body care. It's moving from just a basic need to, well, more of a lifestyle investment, part of overall wellness.
So like a treat, but also essential.
Exactly. People are genuinely willing to spend more on premium products, organic options.
Mm-hmm.
But interestingly, it lifts both ends of the market. Premium and mass market segments are growing because people are either trading up or looking for those affordable, clean versions.
Okay, so changing mindset, more money to spend. But what about the products themselves? And crucially, how we find and buy them. That seems like a huge part of the story too, right? The whole experience.
Absolutely, and that's where product innovation and the, frankly, monumental rise of e-commerce connect. They feed each other.
How so?
Well, on the product side, brands are constantly innovating. We're talking advanced formulas, things with anti-aging benefits, built-in SPF, a huge focus on plant-based ingredients.
Right, you see that everywhere now.
But e-commerce is the game changer. It's not just about convenience. Think about the data these platforms collect. It's reshaping R&D. Brands can spot micro trends, target tiny niches, pivot almost instantly.
Wow, okay.
And for you, the consumer, it means you can find, compare, buy products from anywhere in the world super easily. Plus, you've got online reviews, those influencer tutorials, subscription boxes.
Yeah.
They're not just helping people adopt products. They're creating entirely new ways of shopping and using them.
It really sounds like everything's pointing up for this industry. Blue skies ahead. But every booming market runs into challenges, right? What are some of the, let's say, the tougher realities, the headwinds?
Oh, definitely. And the first big one is just fierce competition. And related to that kind of brand overcrowding.
Too many options.
Exactly. You've got this flood of brands, big international players, smaller local ones, all offering products that can seem really similar. It makes it incredibly hard for new companies to stand out. And even the established brands, they have to keep innovating constantly just to hold on to their share, which often leads to, well, price wars and shrinking profit margins. It's tough.
Sounds pretty cutthroat. Are any brands managing to avoid that margin squeeze, or is it hitting everyone?
And thinking about that, people are reading labels much more closely now. I do it myself. How hard is it for the big established companies to shift away from ingredients they've used for ages? Is that change real, or is some of it just marketing spin? That's a really sharp question. And yes, some brands are managing better, often the ones who built their story around clean or sustainable from day one,
Yeah.
or those offering really unique personalized stuff.
Yeah.
They found other ways to stand out.
Okay.
But yeah, for the established players, shifting away from long-used ingredients is a huge challenge. This growing awareness you mentioned about parabens, sulfates, synthetics,
Yeah.
it's forcing a major rethink. Consumers are informed, they're vocal, so brands have to pivot. They need cleaner, natural, hypoallergenic options. And that costs money, reformulation, testing, remarketing. And any slip-up, like a recall or bad reactions, that can kill consumer trust, sometimes for good. So yes, it's a genuine shift driven by demand, but commitment levels definitely vary across the industry.
And what about the sort of behind-the-scenes stuff? Getting these products actually onto shelves in different countries sounds like a nightmare legally and logistically.
It absolutely can be.
Mhm.
Regulatory compliance is a massive hurdle.
Yeah.
Just imagine trying to launch, say, a body lotion in the EU and Japan at the same time.
Good boy.
It's like two completely different games. Different rules for ingredients, for labeling, for safety tests means high costs, lots of complexity, especially for smaller companies trying to go global.
Yeah.
Get it wrong and you risk fines, bans, huge delays. It can really stop expansion plans cold.
Okay, so serious challenges there. Competition, ingredients, regulations. But despite all that, the market keeps evolving. So looking forward, what are the really big transformative trends? What's genuinely shaping the future here?
Well, one of the most powerful trends, no question, is the demand for natural, vegan, and organic. This isn't niche anymore.
Right, it feels mainstream now.
It really is. It's an expectation, particularly with Gen Z and millennials. They're actively looking for cruelty-free, sustainable packaging, ethical sourcing. It lines up with these broader values around the environment, responsible consumption. It's ushering in this era of green beauty. It's part consumer belief, part smart market response.
And personalization. It feels like everything's getting customized now, from news feeds to coffee orders. Is that happening in body care too? Like a formula made just for my skin?
Without a doubt, that's a huge area of growth, personalized and skin-specific formulations.
How does that even work?
Brands are using AI, detailed online quizzes, sometimes even input from dermatologists, to create tailored solutions. Think about a moisturizer blended for your specific skin microbiome, or maybe a body wash that adjusts based on your local climate. It works because it boosts satisfaction. The product is actually better for that individual. And it really deepens the connection with the brand. In a crowded market, that kind of bespoke approach is a powerful way to stand out.
And those digital platforms, we talked about social media, influencers, still a major force, not just for finding products, but for, building loyalty.
Absolutely pivotal,
Yes.
still dominant. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, they're the launch pads. New products, detailed reviews, those viral body care routines, it all happens there.
Yeah.
And what's really key is how things like influencer partnerships, user content, good digital storytelling
Yeah.
don't just help people discover brands anymore. They directly drive online sales and build real community and loyalty. It's this very dynamic, almost instant connection between brands and their customers.
Okay, so pulling this all together, it seems the body care cosmetics market is definitely thriving. You've got more aware consumers, constant innovation, often fueled by data, and this huge digital engagement driving things forward.
Exactly.
But at the same time, it's navigating this really intense competition, complex regulations, and this constant pressure to meet changing ethical demands from consumers.
That sums it up well. And if you look at the bigger picture, it strongly suggests that the brands poised for future growth are the ones focusing on transparency, on genuine personalization, and maintaining a really strong, authentic digital presence. It's about more than just the product. It's about the lifestyle and the values it represents.
Which leaves us, and you, with the final thought to maybe mull over. As our whole idea of wellness keeps getting deeper and technology offers these incredibly personalized options, how will you define self-care? Especially in a world where maybe your daily moisturizer is made just for you and your favorite body wash might also be helping the planet. Lots to think about. Thanks for diving deep with us today.